Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to TheSTiKSLive. I'm still not entirely sure if I'm here. I've had a very frantic day that we'll come on to talk about later during the show. But sadly, we don't actually have any guests today. Apologies. We worked our ass off and certain things fell through, so apologies on that part. But as always, you're joined by myself and the wonderful Landon. How are we doing today?
Good, man. I've been doing pretty well. I've been watching a lot of Netflix. I know there's a lot of stuff starting up. Game of Thrones is back on.
Yeah, okay.
I don't watch Game of Thrones. I just said that to appeal to the audience watching. But I've been watching a lot of Saved by the Bell on Netflix. Saved by the Bell is my show.
Okay, I have no idea what that is.
Very old show from like the 90s. Good one. Good flick.
Of all the things to mention. But like,
I have been watching it. You asked me how my week was.
Yesterday, okay, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. Yesterday in North America, everyone seemed to be going absolutely crazy back crap about Game of Thrones. I mean, Goalie, you can filter in on this. Let us know down in the chat below as well. Like, it just seems like it was like a national holiday. Everyone was like, this place, I'm in front of the couch watching Game of Thrones. Nothing else is getting in my way. It just seemed like the end all be all for everyone. And when I think I watched like 2 summers ago, like I got to like the start of season 2 and then just kind of, I don't know what happened. I just stopped watching. I was quite enjoying it, but maybe I'll get back into it. But anyway, besides the point, this is a Call of Duty esports show, and we're talking about Game of Thrones, what's completely off topic. But today we have a packed show. Not going to lie to you guys, coming into today's show, we were kind of like, we're looking at the show document and kind of putting the script together, and like, we don't really have a lot to talk about. We don't. So it's nice that in the last couple of hours, we've had roster changes, we've had MLG announcements, we've had all sorts going on to obviously filter in to making this a really great show. Obviously, always interact with us in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube or in the chat if you're watching this on Twitch. We always love to hear what you guys think, and obviously it kind of influence what we talk about as well during the show. But we're going to kick things off talking about Roster Mania and kind of give you a little bit of a recap of what happened last week while we were off air, and also talk about eLv situation and a couple of other things. Before I do that, I have to just reiterate the winner of the Scuff giveaway.
Yeah, who was it? I want to know who it was.
The winner, so
it's already been announced, but who cares?
Yeah, it's already been announced. I believe altogether we had 400 entries, with like 1,500 actual entries, because obviously depending on how many things you did, you got a certain amount of entries. But the winner was Jack McHugh.
I was wondering why my YouTube subscribers went up so much. I was wondering.
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, like, you didn't have to, but obviously we appreciate that, like, everyone did.
Now got 5 subscribers. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. If you're doing a giveaway.
Yeah, I mean, let's just congrats Fox as well, because Fox actually hit 5K today.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yesterday, what is mind-blowing number. But besides the point, Jack McHugh was the winner.
Nice.
From Birmingham in the UK, not too far from me. I believe I know I've been DMing him, and he obviously knows this. And if he's maybe watching this, I believe Kingdom is trying to get it out on Friday. Now, when I say try, don't take my word for that. I'll obviously try and keep you up to date with what Kingdom's doing. Kingdom is a very busy man, but we will get it out to you at some point. We will, I promise you. It's coming from the UK, so bear that in mind. The US even, so bear that in mind as well. But congrats to him. Congrats to everyone that kind of got involved and had a chance, I guess, even though you didn't win. But Rostermania is just continuously, it keeps ticking over. I thought it was going to end last week when the league started, but obviously I believe roster locks aren't until 2 weeks until I think it ends like week 3. I don't know if Goalie, you can give us an actual date, but I believe it's 2 weeks into the actual CWL when rosters are locked. So we're going to see rosters chop and change. And obviously the big one that was announced today was eLv dropping Remy, what obviously opens up a spot there. I don't want to touch on that just yet, because I want to get your guys' opinions, especially you, Landon, on what happened last week that we both completely like pooped ourselves over. That was Nadeshot not only picking up King Pappy, but then changing it to 100 Thieves, keeping the roster, now an owner in the CWL, what obviously sparks a lot of different questions about, you know, is this new organization going to pick up other rosters in other esports? What's the whole deal with Optic and so on and so forth? What was your kind of overall thought when this was all first announced?
I mean, it was interesting to me. Like, I kind of my major thing when roster changes happen is like step back, like think about everything that's involved, and not just like automatically think, okay, well, Nadeshot made this. Like, whenever I'm making a video, especially and whenever I tweet out stuff, I do my very best to kind of keep an outward perspective. I was like, what does everyone else think about this? Like, what are the replications, or what are the repercussions rather that could happen from certain situations and stuff? And I immediately thought, that it's really cool that we're getting to a point to where the original generation of Call of Duty players, pros, are now being involved with a newer generation. Whether, I mean, you can, in your opinion, you could throw out whether the 100 Thieves roster, is the next generation of great pro players and stuff like that. But I just think it's kind of an interesting transition to where we're seeing that now happen. And granted, Nadeshot's obviously a very, well-off guy. I mean, obviously has a lot of money, a lot of successful social media and stuff like that. Obviously the most well-known pro player. But I think it's really interesting, though, that we're finally seeing that happen, especially. But, another thing that we can kind of talk about is the roster that he picked up. Being 100 Thieves, being King Poppy, the old team, and also being a roster who in some ways was looked at to be a very underrated team. Obviously coming into this Call of Duty World League, which we'll talk about here in a second, this team just in general, it looked fine. They didn't look like that crazy, but the whole thing was just the fact that, they beat, in some ways they've already beaten TK to get here. Do they actually deserve a spot? And I think this week they kind of showed that they're here to play. They look pretty talented. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this team move forward, especially under the name 100 Thieves, which I think is actually a pretty cool name. I know it's a little bit out there. I know it's a little bit weird. Apparently, it's not correct to call it 100 Thieves. It is only cool to call it 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves. 100.
Okay, that was I have no idea. Okay, can we just admire, like you said, nature being such a big influencer, as the new word is kind of coming about with all these big stars and YouTubers and stuff. This organization, as of when I just checked it, has 96,000 followers in the space of under a week. Now, that is mind-blowing for an organization that is basically got that following off the bat of one person. That is just ridiculous, even to put in perspective in terms of just they've only been around a week. They have one roster. The players on the roster aren't massive personalities, albeit they will probably turn into them at this point. And it's just crazy to think that one person has brought this many kind of followers onto account. But that's Nadeshot. I mean, for a long while, he was kind of the face of Call of Duty, a lot of people would say, and it's just crazy. And I think this came out of nowhere. Certainly from watching his video, it seemed like he had to just make a decision. I mean, he said he didn't even consent to Hex about it. What is just delusional, considering the amount of good advice and kind of knowledge and just wisdom Hex possesses, if you will. So for him not even to do that and just jump on the bandwagon, just be like, right, I'm doing it, I'm going for it, this is my own decision, let's do it. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, I want to just know in the chat what everyone else thought of it when it got announced, because I know that literally everyone just, all hell broke loose. Just it was crazy. I don't know. It was just crazy. There's no other word of really describing it.
Well, it's in some ways, everyone considers to be Nadeshot as Call of Duty's the COD God's son is what Nadeshot is essentially, is what he's brought into the scene. So whenever he left the scene, obviously that was an incredible amount of waves that happened with what would happen with the competitive scene, what would happen with Optic, would he stay in Optic, would he leave Optic, and then now he's kind of hinted over the I guess maybe the last month, I think, when he's kind of hinted potentially making an organization, but I don't think anyone would really think, or I mean, at the time, 100 or like you say, King Poppy didn't have their spot yet. He was kind of making this decision ahead of time. So I think everything just kind of worked out. And in some ways, you kind of, and I hate to say this, but in the Call of Duty scene, if you're not, ready to make your decision here and now, it's going to run past you. That's what he kind of realized. This opportunity might not happen for a while, if ever again, because it's very rare that you do see a team make it in the Call of Duty World League or into a major league, similar to the Call of Duty World League, because obviously this hasn't happened before, without an organization behind them already, already getting offers and stuff. So, like I said, massive congratulations to the guys over 100 Thieves, or 100 Thieves, sorry, I keep saying it incorrectly, and Nadeshot. Is he Optic Nadeshot anymore? Question to be asking. Who really knows?
Exactly. I mean,
Optic Embos was on Prophecy. You can. I mean, there's a number of different things. People have actual names. Optic might actually be Nadeshot's first name now, and he might not be able to change it. We don't know. We have no idea.
Please don't go there. I don't even want to know. But yeah, I mean that is something to consider. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and speculate, because the likelihood is he's still obviously a part of Optic. I mean, he got brought up, and he's still probably a co-owner of Optic, and obviously I'm pretty sure this being a completely new organization does obviously not conflict in the rules in only having one team per org. So yeah, it's probably nothing. It's probably just a case of this is something that he's been kind of set out to be an ambition and keep him involved in COD esports. And if anything, it's just gonna kind of bring him back into COD Esports without being a player, and it means that hopefully we can continue to kind of see his influence, as I like to say now, continue to grow COD Esports, because he's certainly a personality that we would like to keep in the scene, and I think this is the kind of greatest way to do it without actually having him playing. So that's really awesome. But besides 100 Thieves, was obviously just amazing stuff, mind-blowing. We had Luminosity making changes. We knew that Spacely had kind of unofficially gone. Then it was kind of officially announced. They've now brought Study in that I think a lot of people could see, but then TP, who is a very intriguing player for them to bring in, considering the TP and Aches obviously left MV. A lot of the time they kind of come and go as a package. So it's interesting to see TP again go away from Aches and go on this Luminosity roster that, I don't know, they've only played obviously 1 week, but what kind of impression did you get from them playing? Because they certainly looked different, not necessarily saying that in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to take in consideration what, I mean, the first thing is hard because Luminosity, in the first season of the Call of Duty World League, Luminosity was looked at to be an okay team. You know, they made it through stage 1 narrowly. They're like one of the last teams to make it into stage 1 or to stage 2, you know, obviously through the playoffs and stuff like that. But to be honest, like, they weren't like that incredible. I mean, granted, they finished at UMG South Carolina. It's like a place right behind Rise Nation. You know, they beat some teams here and there, but in general, though, they didn't look to be like that incredible of a team. Like, they had their moments. Like, I think the only loss that Rise suffered to a team who was an Optic FaZe or at one time envious was to Luminosity. You know, one of Rise's losses also throughout some of the season, or who was it, Envy or something like that, ended up losing to Luminosity. Like, they've had some really good moments throughout the season, but looking at Luminosity now, it's an interesting dynamic because now you bring on TP after you've lost John, who's an incredible sub-slayer, went over to Envious, as we know. So kind of like not really a trade, but you can kind of consider it to be that way. And there are a lot of rumors going on with Luminosity's roster because basically, I think I had on his stream as like a command or something that he's going to be joining Luminosity in week 2 or 3, and then now he's saying he's a free agent. Like, there's a lot of speculation going on. Not everyone knows exactly what's happening, but right now, Luminosity, to me, as it stands right now, and of course we haven't seen them practice yet, they seem to be in a little bit of a struggle, and I think they do need to make a change in some ways. You know, regarding whoever you think it may be. I think that they do lack an AR presence in some cases. You do have replays, who to me is fine. I know they brought in Studded. They also, for a time before TP, had brought on Assault from C9 Eclipse, who's a fantastic AR player. And then I think I said this last week. They realized that they had 3 of the exact same role on the same team. So they drop one of them. They drop Assault. They pick up a support player. And then now it's like, you know, where do you go from here? It's like you really need a slaying presence. And, you know, I know they're having a lot of issues. And, of course, when you first start off a team, you're going to have issues. But as far as like a long-lasting, you know, slang team, I just don't know if it's there yet. I think they need to bring on someone who can kind of maybe complement them or at least increase their overall knowledge of the game by position.
The problem I straight away see with this team is the fact that TP and Replays very much conflict in roles. And TP, we know, kind of in a way finds it hard to not be selfless. What is a very weird thing to say in COD Esports, but he's always been that OBJ, that kind of selfless player that kind of, in a way, is similar to what Karma does on OG, where he fills in where he's needed or he gets in the hill, whatever. And I'm honestly kind of, I think LG have done well, if anything, during this roster mania to hang on to Saints. I think Saints is a talent to this team, and I think they've done well not to lose him to other rosters that may have tried to poach him. And as you say, I don't know if these moves, I mean, they've lost John, what was a big slaying presence.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Like, I mean, there's always the potential. On paper, we can say one thing or another, but there's always the potential for all of a sudden, whoa, this roster just clicks. It just works. So I'm not going to kind of rule out them, you know, doing well and this being an improvement. But at the same time, you've got to have concerns about the roles. As you said, there's so many rumors about Spacey. Just to kind of clear that up, though, looking at his Twitter, I mean, obviously this could mean anything, but 30 minutes ago, he tweeted out saying free agent, teams hit me, hit my phone's DMs. And then after that, he followed up by saying, weirdest situation I've ever dealt with in my life, full stop.
Oh, I didn't read that part.
So obviously, like always, there may have been the potential for something happening, like you said, on his stream, but maybe it's fallen through, and that's now why he's actually looking for another roster. But again, things happen. I mean, it's like Replays on Denial back in last year. He was on off the roster like a yo-yo. And it's a very similar situation. It's like every man for themselves. And if one thing falls through, they're like, oh, we want you back. And then it's like, if one thing falls through, it's like, no, actually, no, we don't want you. And this is what happens in Roster Mania. It's very much every team and every player for themselves and trying to get kind of their best deal. Have LG achieved that? Very arguable at this stage. It's too early at that to kind of call it, because
I know too, really quickly, not trying to cut you off, but I know
you're good.
The other day Luminosity was, I honestly I didn't watch them, but from what I've heard and what people said on stream and stuff, that Replays wasn't playing for Luminosity. The accuracy was filling in, but I also heard that Replays was on vacation, or if he just wasn't around or something, but they wanted to scrim. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it, but I mean, whenever it comes down to roster changes, you always have stuff in the back of your mind. Something to keep in mind as well, accuracy. Has had a number of different roster changes. Just seems that things haven't gone his way. Joins different teams and so on and so forth. But you'll see how it goes. I'm just saying, obviously they, in some ways, if they do sub out a player, it wouldn't surprise me if it is someone like Replays, and in his place you do get an AR player. And actually is an AR player, of course. So got to keep that in mind. There are rumors, and there's I've been seeing people post on Reddit, the amount of little things that can happen. Like Royalty leaves 100 Thieves. He goes over to Elevate. Remy, who's left Elevate, now goes over to Luminosity. And so there's that could sound really if you guess it, it would be like the guess of the century. But there are a lot of things.
It could happen. It could happen, yeah.
He could be incredibly.
I think Clickwood brings up a very good point in the chat about the fact that we always forget about Saints traveling issues. Let's not forget that if Saints was on FaZe, Rise, OG, whoever, one of these teams that is, traveled to Crown Melbourne, or is going to ESWC, or even a Gfinity event that may be on the horizon that we'll talk about later, he's not a player that can go, because we know there's clearly problems with him traveling. It's evident, it's whether we believe it or not, the evidence suggests that he, for whatever reason, whether it's a lack of a passport or whatever it is, or he, can't get one, cannot travel to any events outside of the US. What is a very alarming, problem for a team that kind of has, considering kind of the step that Activision are taking in and maybe promoting other regions a lot more to try to obviously raise the participation rates, etc. So that is a possibility that is always going to be there for Saints, and it's a factor that I think a lot of players always take into consideration when they're going to potentially pick up Saints. So although he is, don't be wrong, a very good, exceptional slayer and a good player in general, I think throughout AW, I think he failed to go negative. I don't know if that stat actually continued. But at the same time, he obviously can't travel to certain events, what obviously is a downhill for a lot of players that obviously would like to go to Australia. They would completely jump at the chance to do that. So yeah, LG is a team that I think we're both very intrigued to see this week and going forward to see how they get on. I'm just thoroughly excited. I mean, TP on this roster excites me. I'm just hoping that they can obviously get their rosters kind of sorted and so on and so forth. So yeah, and with that being said, I guess the final thing in North America that happened last week was Felony being announced as a sub on H2K. And then that brings us round to kind of this week, Elevate dropping Remy, that we can pretty much talk about now, and kind of talk about potentially who they can pick up, because there is a lot of free agents out there. TK are clearly looking to pick up a roster. I know Theory tweeted out either yesterday or the day before that there's works in the pipeline and it will be announced soon. So there's a potential, but ideally all these free agents are going to obviously want to get on Elevate rather than on TK because of that league spot at the end of the day. In your mind, I know it's only been literally an hour or so since it got announced, kind of with the free agents out there, what can you potentially see happening?
With Elevate, I mean, in general, you look at what Elevate has, you can kind of take their team, because at the very beginning of the game, you had pretty set roles. I mean, you had Vicente was running an AR. I think he was I casted Elevate, I think 2 days into the game being started, I was watching them of course, everyone was running a number of different things, Insertion and Destroy, you saw 4 overdrives. It was the meta was completely different, obviously, back then. But at the beginning of the game, Vicente was more of an AR player. Aqua as well was kind of a secondary AR, while Nagfin and Remy were both sub players, and both kind of getting in the hill in their own exchange. We kind of realized as the season progressed that Vicente wasn't necessarily performing as an AR player, so they started giving Aqua more of the size, more of an AR player presence, and then Vicente switched from an AR player to basically Remy's role of a objective support type of minded player. So mostly an objective player, which is a completely massive turnaround to think about, because you go from an AR player holding lanes, getting spawns, I guess you could say, and then translating now to getting in the hill constantly, which is a massive change to go on in a number of different sequences, which I think during UMG South Carolina, like right before UMG South Carolina, is when they kind of had that all going on. And he kind of talked about, to me, I think it might have been like me and Revin for a short time or something like that. I can't remember who it was. So now there were role switch ups because everyone was curious. Like, did they get rid of Facento? Because granted, it's kind of Remy's role. Now Remy's kind of brought out of his element. Now Nagafen's a secondary AR. Aqua's doing fantastic. I think Aqua transitioned to the AR role perfectly. Yeah. But it's kind of messed up the roles for the team. And in some ways, everyone was looking at Facento for bringing that guy who in some ways wasn't performing to now switch over. And now he's taken Remy's role. And it was kind of like, deciding Remy or Facento, probably Facento. And it's just kind of interesting that they decided to actually release Remy, who was, at least in my opinion, not performing terribly. I can kind of pull up his KD and stuff and talk about eLv's performance, because they finished like 4th in the league. Like,
this is what I was going to bring up. Like,
surprising to see a team like that make a change.
Exactly. I mean, and not just that. It's the fact that they started kind of at the start of the season around 7th, 8th. We were I remember talking at the start of the season, like, this team is actually not doing as well as we would have expected, kind of based off their performance back in AW. And then they all of a sudden turned it around. They picked themselves up. And arguably, you could say towards the end of stage 1, they were better than that old Envious roster. They were. So
I think most, not to take anything away, I think most teams were probably better than the old.
Well, okay, yeah. But in saying that, I mean, with complexity obviously being a bit consistent when Parasite was on the roster as well, they were like a top 4 team. And now for them to do this, is it like, have they done this in response to other roster changes from complexity, from Envy, to try and stay ahead of the game?
I think too, like, and kind of bringing up your thoughts on that too, is that I think the Call of Duty World League stage 1 to stage 2, I think the competition has honestly been raised. Like,
yeah, I think so.
The team is who left. CLG was a struggling team. You still have DT in it. You have TK who got out of it as well. But I mean, I think bringing on CNI, bringing in 100 thieves into the lineup. I mean, these are some.
Every time you're gonna like literally pronounce that line,
I'm gonna struggle. But you brought on some really talented guys. Like, these teams are like, I think what would be considered everyone's bottom 4 right now, whoever you want to consider that to be. I mean, we could see a number of different switch ups happen, which really wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. But like I said, you look at eLv though, 13-9 record. You have to take into consideration though, they had a 20-8 search and destroy record, which is fantastic. But the hard point was 9-13, and their uplinks were 8-14. So in my mind, coming into this situation, looking at both of your main respawns, regardless of CTF, you look at their overall, KDs. You look at Aqua had a 1.08. You had Nagafen and Facento both with 0.97, and 2 notches below, you have Remy with a 0.95. I mean, you could look at your KDs and say, like, oh, that's the guy to target because he is the lowest KD. Granted, they're as close as they are. It's really uncomparable. But to be honest, though, it's kind of really surprising. I don't know who. We can obviously talk about who we think they're going to bring on. Could it be Aches? It's not going to be Merc. Merc's already confirmed that he
yeah, we know. I mean, like, Merc's, I think, I mean, Jetty reckons it could be someone outside of the CWL teams. Well, I mean, I think it's like it potentially is like a 50-50, considering that there is a lot of good talent outside of the CWL, but at the same time there's a lot of talent in the CWL, but that means kind of negotiating with teams. And at this point, the teams really want to start doing more roster changes, because we all know, like, you do some roster changes, then you have to adapt roles, chemistry,
absolutely.
And all of a sudden you're 0-4 after 2 weeks. So it's like, they're probably better off, in my personal opinion, getting a player outside of the CWL, just simply because it's going to be a lot more. I mean, the matches are taking place tomorrow, so presumably they've got something lined up. Presumably,
I mean, we hope so. I don't want to say
it still blows my mind that we're in 2016 and we have teams that announce a roster change, but then don't announce who's coming on the roster at the same time. Like,
honestly, they might not know. But
exactly. That worries me. That worries me, because we're like, if you don't know, then like, what are you doing? Like, why have you dropped this player already? It's like when I think it was Denial sold the roster, but then no one announced who the roster was going to for like a week or so, and it was just like, I don't get why there's no kind of coordination so that it's happening at the same time, so that transactions don't fall through. Because potentially.
It's like they're asking, like, they're
asking for trouble.
Yeah,
they're asking for trouble. Like, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It blows my mind that we're in this situation. But regardless, eLv I've got to announce someone. I mean, I presume I don't think eLv have any subs from my knowledge.
It was Apathy in season 1, but obviously he's on Envious now, so I'm assuming he can't leave Envious and come over as a sub. I'm just gonna assume that now.
I mean,
it's kind of awkward if like maybe Apathy's like if eLv plays Envious and like next week, I don't think they do, but it'd be really funny if they were. Apathy's like, what do I do? Like, do I play with Mike? Like, obviously he's gonna play with.
No. One half he's on eLv and the other half he's on Envy. The casters are like, wait, wasn't he on? Like, it's not going to happen. Let's be honest. So I've kind of in our show doc kind of put together some of the free agents at the moment. Feel free to obviously comment in the chat and let us know what you think of some of these free agents and potentially if one of them could go on eLv or maybe they form their own team or maybe they go on the TK team. So we've got Accuracy Burns, Dido. I just wanted to put Dido twice. That's a mistake. Proofy, Squally, Assault, Theory, Methods, Silly, Neslo. They're just to name a few. I know there's a few more as well. And there's some very talented players there. I mean, Proofy's there, for God's sake. Like, I know he's been very kind of absent this year, I think, with Call of Duty. I'm not really sure what's going on with the whole TCM and Ivy and then now this. But I know I was watching him stream last week and he was with, I think, Burns and Neslo. So he's still playing the game at least. But I mean, a big name like Proofy, it's just crazy. And I mean, Aches as well. Parasite seems to have kind of hinted that he's not going to eLv, although in saying that, we know.
I think eLv posted, like, I like eLv, but their Reddit stuff, like, they're like, I don't know, it just kind of annoys me sometimes. No offense to eLv. I like eLv. The Red Rebellion, I'm a fan of you guys, but some of the posts.
Like you're sitting on the fence.
It's just kind of like, no offense. I don't like when organizations are like, hey, we're going to announce our team, and then it's kind of like unprofessional when you're like, hey, guys, like in the comments, it's not going to be Parasite. And then I think they posted, like, our player's name begins with AB, like they put like all the letters of the alphabet. It's like, just don't say anything at all. Like, I don't know, it just kind of annoys me.
Yeah, because that doesn't.
So they said it's not going to be Parasite though, so we can throw Parasite out of the question for eLv because they said on the Reddit that it's not going to be Parasite.
At the same time, they say that, but like I feel like one thing can change and they'll reconsider it. I feel like I don't know. I know Parasite. We know Parasite's had to pass with these players on Epsilon. We know that.
Well, Parasite and the Epsilon NA guys, which were Aqua, Nagafen, because Facento I think was on like TCM then, or like he was on a random roster. What was it? Orbit. That's right. It was Orbit. Obviously, yeah. TCM was like, yeah. Never mind. So that team was like formed, and I know that they did not have a good time at all playing with Parasite. They hated it, but like I heard them talking streams before, and they're like, no way do we want to team with Parasite again. Like I remember I was watching Team Scrims and they were talking about Parasite and they're like just laughing about all the times that they had because of how ridiculous he was at times. Like,
yeah,
what to do. So I doubt that they would go with him, especially two of the three. Well, Remy in some ways, but two out of the three players being on that old roster with him, I don't think it would. Too well.
So I mean, we could talk about freaking all show who is going to go elevate. But let's just consider Remy. What does Remy do in this situation? He's a player that pretty much got brought up with these other three players. I mean, this Elevate squad basically kind of created themselves as a team. They haven't really had kind of too much success or even been teaming outside of this roster for a good while. Obviously, there was a brief kind of period after Champs, but then they came back together towards the end of AW, and they've obviously been together since. So what does Remy do in this situation when he's kind of being dropped by his like bros? It's like he's being kind of he's being segregated from the family. It's like, we don't want you to be part of the family anymore. Like, I don't know what he does. Like, because he was brought up with these players, he hasn't kind of developed that relationship with some of these other free agents. Obviously, he's probably got other people he knows in the community, but I just can't help but feel that this is kind of him stepping away from the CWL for a while.
I think it'll be an awkward transition for him because as far as like records go, I was checking on Kite Sportspedia just to check. I mean, he's been teaming with Nagafen for over a year now. Only him specifically. Of course, teams have changed into Aqua and stuff. Like Aqua was on the team, then he went to Envy for a short time. So specifically, though, he's been teaming with Nagafen. He's been teaming with the TR guys, in quotes there, for a long time. Then he teamed with Nagafen still, and then they obviously came back with one another heading into Black Ops 3. But he's in a pretty awkward position because he doesn't really have any experience with any other pro players, regardless of the guys that he's played with. Of course, you can name off Royalty, you can name off Parasite, and even some other guys. But just in general, though, you look at this team or you look at him specifically, and you're like, well, does he at least have some experience with other pro players, like in the Call of Duty World League? Has he teamed with some of those guys? Has he scrimmed with some of those guys? I can't really remember when he's played like an 8 series with some guys. And of course, like I'm not saying that the 8s include you into the main realm of players, but a lot of guys will look and say like, oh, I know this guy off the top of my head who's a great player. But I think in some ways, if Remy does, obviously he is a free agent, but if there is a player who comes from the Call of Duty World League, leaves that team specifically and goes over for his spot, I mean, he could join that place as well. I mean, like I'm assuming the position that Elevate does fill is the role that Remy previously was in. So like if that ends up happening, I think just in general though, at the very least he can at the very least look to be a substitute for one of the Call of Duty World League teams. At least in some way you're getting involved.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, just like Feli, I mean, I just have to announce I've just been dropped from the Sticks in the chat. So I've apparently now got to report back next week to tell you guys how it feels to be dropped. Where is this?
You can like give us an opinion, like what's it like to be dropped from an organization in some way.
Well, let's be honest, I probably won't be here next week. I'll be so depressed. I won't be able to make an opinion. This is just the end of me. Like, just
interesting.
Thank you for the opportunity, Kingdom. I'm sorry I let you down, and you obviously. I mean, we know you just have a problem with genders. Okay, let's admit the problem here. Okay.
When we bring you back on the team, just don't argue about general statements, and we'll be fine. We'll be good. Nothing to worry about.
I have no idea. Anyway, back on track. So, just let's not go there. Okay, let's let's not go there. Anyway, I think you make a good point. Remy being a substitute, I think is the most probably approachable decision for him, considering. And I mean, there's always a chance that he becomes a starter if there becomes problems on our roster. That's the good thing about potentially being a substitute. Yes, you're probably for the most part not going to play. But there is the potential, if stuff does happen, for you then to become a starter, or people can negotiate. Jenny, my next video will be, I'm sorry. Yes, you are right. It'll just be, I'm sorry, and it'll just be crying in the shower again like last year. But
oh my,
yeah, I know that actually happened. Go search on YouTube. It's the stupidest video ever. I would like to see Remy stay kind of relevant, if you will.
Remy's a great player. Yeah, whenever he was in Advanced Warfare, I called him the young T. Well, it's like maybe the beginning of Black Ops 3, as I call him the young T, because he was like for a short time. Like I said, this for a short time. You get what I mean? But like for a period of time, he looked to be in some ways like the Black Ops 2 T, where he could also slay really well, but he was also playing the objective role like great. And of course, that was for a short time. Like it wasn't over a consistent basis, but like at times he looked to have T-esque elements to where he could also slay, but also provide that great objective stance, which I don't think will like TP be replicated from like Black Ops 2. But still, just in general though, he showed some signs, and he's honestly like throughout the season. Granted, he didn't have the best overall KD.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't shine, but
you have to take in consideration though his main role got switched away from him. Facento, who was the AR player, took his role, and then Remy was left to be in a secondary spot where he's not been, at least for the most part, at least for a year, he's not been in this position ever. Like he's always a support or objective role, if you want to talk about Advanced Warfare support. But that's also something to kind of think about too. Like he, like in some ways, not that he's been screwed over. I'm not saying that at all. But you do have to take into consideration maybe his KD decline was due to the fact that he's not playing the same role that he's been used to, play more of a secondary role. We've also seen with some teams in the Call of Duty World League, even players like Spacely for Luminosity, like they're not playing the same role that they're used to, so they're kind of just thrown out there as like a secondary sub or a secondary AR where they're just kind of roaming around the map, filling out lanes and not knowing really what they're doing. It happens a lot, and I've even seen replays talk about that. He's like, I feel like I'm not doing enough because I'm not familiar with my role on this team right now. Like that's what he said with playing it with TP and the guys last week. I saw him like talking about it in the stream. So there are players who had that issue, and I feel like that could have been a main issue with Remy for the longest time. Maybe in that's the reason why he was dropped, because he just wasn't feeling comfortable. But you have to look at the elements that came into it, realizing that Facento in some ways took his objective. He took his actual role.
Yeah. So he basically effectively got made redundant. It was like,
kind of,
I'm doing your role. You've just got to fit in somewhere else, and that's a very hard thing to do, especially when you're a player and that's all you've known. That's all you've known. A certain way to play. It's a very simple thing to think about, but when you actually put it into perspective, like when these players play hours upon hours within a certain role, they always know a certain way. It's very hard. It's like what I refer to when I used to train and be a swimmer. It's muscle memory. It's like a way of just life. It's like it's like you just don't even think about it. You just do it because that's the way you've always done it. And it's like, you've never had to do it any differently. So now it changing, of course, there's going to be like, he's not going to perfectly transition into another role. It's just, it never happens. And that's why, for the most part, we have kind of, we associate players with a specific role because that's what they've always done. That's what they're good at.
So that's what players even associate them with that as well. And they might be thinking, can you run a different role? And they might not even know if he can run another role. Like, he can play support. Can he run an AR? Should we put an AR in his hand? Should we even take a risk on, getting Remy on the team? That's been the question. One thing, though, that I've seen people predict, and I mentioned a second ago, which would be absolutely fantastic, in my opinion, would be to see 100 Thieves lose Royalty and to see Royalty go over to Elevate. So where he's now a main AR along with Aqua. And now, hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Nagafen's back to more of a sub role, which he was back in Advanced Warfare, because I think he's more comfortable as a sub rather than AR. Yeah. And that, to me, would be fantastic because actually, in the beginnings of TR, Royalty was actually one of the players on that roster with those guys. So they have a lot of old chemistry back in the day. I think I've even seen Pittsburgh tweet out like the old TR and had like a picture of Royalty standing with some of the old guys. So I don't know if that could happen. I don't know if it would ever be in the elements of existing, but I did see, like I said, I did see a post on Reddit implementing where Royalty leaves 100 Thieves. I swear to God, I'm going to have so many issues with that. And then he would go over to Elevate. Now I'm asking that Royalty even wants to do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it summed up quite well.
It would be really cool, and I would love to see the Elevate team play because I think their search game automatically increases. I don't know if that's even possible to happen. I think their slang presence gets even better to where their hardpoint, their uplinks are now ways. And they have Aqua and Royalty, who are both incredible AR players, who are very they almost play the AR as a sub. It's really strange, but they would be the most aggressive team that we'd see in all of the Call of Duty World League, most likely. And I think that would be really, really fun to see. But in some ways, they would destroy 100 Thieves because of the issues that they would have with Royalty leaving. Who would they pick up? I don't know. But it's just cool. It's a cool thought. But
I mean, I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit because obviously we've been kind of talking about the same thing for a while. But I think at the end of the day, if Elevate do end up picking up someone up from another roster in the CWL, then obviously that opens up a spot potentially for Remy. So potentially, although in saying that, by now we would have probably seen just a direct trade like we've seen in the past with like Envy and Denial. So I don't know, but either way, there's obviously going to be more roster changes. There's either going to be a free agent getting their golden ticket into the league, or there's going to be more roster changes involving more CWL teams. Obviously, we'll bring you up to date with everything that happens on our personal channels as always, and probably talk about it more next week because between now and this time tomorrow, there's obviously got to be an announcement from Elevate because otherwise they're going to be forfeiting the match, and that's obviously not something
they could pull a Luminosity and then announce it like 30 seconds before their matchup starts.
Oh my God. Or just literally like
goalie said, please no.
or they just don't announce it and we just see it like when they're actually playing.
Yeah, that's true.
In the band, that's the first time we see it.
Okay. It's got to be this guy. It's got to be Aches Intel.
It's going to be
I have no idea.
1-2 iHeart. What? Who is this guy?
They're going to mask it and you have to guess who it is.
But yeah, either way, just stay on social media and I'm sure you guys will find out at the same time as us. We pretty much
to Ducati Sportspedia, who tweet out everything.
Yeah, goalie does a good job. I actually kind of good tangent there. I want to bring goalie into the discussion because we're going to actually go to talk about something that is very much related to COD Esports, but more related to the news and the journalism side of things. If you guys didn't know, Esports Nation have been present in COD Esports, and they've divulged into Halo and CS and other esports as well in terms of being a news feed, if you will, of stuff that goes on. They've got a massive Twitter following, massive staff. Josh, a good friend of ours, was there, and he's actually moved on to Vidi, I think it is. I don't know what it is. We're excited to see what happens there as well. But basically what's happened is in the last, I think, hour, ESN have actually been bought out. Goalie, I know you've been doing a bit of research, so I wanted to just bring you in and kind of, if you could inform us a bit more about the move. When you mean research, you mean messaging people. Okay, but, messaging people and seeing peeing in our chat. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. So, Gamers, which is this brand that I haven't heard of before, but it's awesome that they have the fundings to buy out. And that's spelled with a U instead of E, right? Yeah, yes, it's spelled with a U. And they've also bought out Esports Guru. I don't know if you guys know who they are, but they also do a really good job in the community of writing articles. But basically what they're going to try and do is that they're going to try and be the COD /CS/LOL/Hearthstone Slash.
hub for esports.
Shop.
And the goal is obviously to compete with ESPN and Yahoo. So, which isn't a surprise at all.
Yeah, because obviously, it's a good thing. Competition is always a good thing, no matter how you look at it. It always drives growth at the end of the day, because obviously one organization is always going to kind of want to get ahead of the other, and it enables them to be more productive and blah blah blah. End of the story is ESPN and Yahoo's coming into the scene. Has definitely been a good thing. Shows that these big orgs, they're absolutely massive in the world of sport and just news in general, are taking notice of esports. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, that's obviously a positive. And then obviously ESN, who have been the kind of the Call of Duty for the most part in terms of news, now have obviously got this competition, so that's why they've made moves to join gamers. And I guess it's just going to kind of create more publicity for esports in general. We've now got 3 massive contenders for outlets of news coming in and out in different esports, not just Call of Duty as well. It's huge. You may obviously think it's significant from a Call of Duty standpoint, but just generally it's stuff like this that grows esports. The more kind of wider kind of funnel we have in terms of an audience that we can capture, especially with ESPN and Yahoo, the more people that are going to find out about it, enjoy it, and love it, like all of us do in this Twitch chat right now. And obviously it's just going to grow. So I think I saw Bud Light Esports became a thing today too. They got verified after one tweet, I believe.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing all kinds of people out here, and it's fun. It's cool. And that to add on to your point or keep it going. But I think it's kind of interesting. We did see Bud Light get into it. So hey, we'll see what happens with that.
Bud Light, yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen with that. I mean, it's just like it's like known brand at esports at the end of it, and then you have what everyone is trying to do right now. Bud Light is a prime example.
There's a lot of good stuff right now. One thing that I think we didn't bring up when it first got announced was obviously I think Call of Duty is dipping into what League has done in terms of college, a college league for Call of Duty as well.
I haven't heard too much about that. I don't know what's. Yeah. I don't know why they're keeping it behind closed doors. I'm not sure.
It's good because that is the exact age when you want to be getting with this 18+ ruling. That is the perfect thing for Activision to do, because that is the age when they can obviously participate, and it's a direct kind of input, like another source into Call of Duty in terms of not just participation but obviously viewership as well. So I think that's another really cool concept that is going to be really interesting. And Golly's just put something in the chat. Okay, this is the Bud Light. Yeah, just there's so many things happening. Obviously Josh has gone off with Avid, or I don't know how you pronounce it. They've got stuff coming as well, what's going to be really cool as well. So this advert's weird. Okay, this is just a weird advert. But yeah, there's a lot of hype at the moment around esports, which is a really good thing. And obviously over the years, we've seen a massive influx of news kind of reporters and big organizations come into the scene. So yeah, I'm really excited. You should be as well. Whether you think this is significant or not, that's obviously your opinion, but this is ultimately going to be a factor that grows COD Esports, because we're going to have that wider funnel to attract organizations and players and viewership into it. And the good thing is as well, with Yahoo and ESPN on board, we're going to have people that, use that stereotypical, why are you watching people play games, kind of disregard in a way, because they'll say, oh wow, ESPN are taking note of this must be something big, etc. So I'm pretty excited. Obviously we'll bring you up to date as more things get announced. They're probably going to continue to do similar things to what they're already doing, but they're just branching into one big organization to rival the likes of ESPN and Yahoo. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. But
what did you say? You said Yahoo?
Yahoo, yeah.
Yahoo, Tommy.
Yahoo.
Yahoo. Oh, it's funny. I'm sorry, I had to clear that up. It's Yahoo. I know it's not Yahoo.
Let's not even go there. It's like, who is it? I think Kingdom tweeted me saying, I have no idea what Saved by the Bell is. Now, I don't know if he's quoting me saying I said that, or you guys don't know what that means.
Wait, Kingdom doesn't know what Saved by the Bell is either? Or is he talking about how you didn't know it?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he quoted me or doesn't know what it means.
Kingdom should know what Saved by the Bell is. He should know. If no one knows what Saved by the Bell is, It's an old show,
Yeah.
pretty cheesy, but it's awesome. It's like, I don't know, it's like one of those kids
Okay.
school shows. It's pretty cool. I'd look it up if I were you. It's on
Okay,
Netflix.
he's saying it in that context. That makes more sense because I actually don't know what that means. I thought he was saying it in the context of the actual phrase and the meaning.
Okay, he said you said.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
I'd be really surprised if Kingdom didn't know what CWL was.
I don't get
It's okay.
how to watch
It's fine. It's fine.
or
It's fine. It's all right. No worries.
Give me a break. Like, can we just talk about esports? Like,
Let's talk about Yahoo. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
okay, yeah, I'm not even gonna say it because I'm just getting more. Let's move on.
Like your issue is Yahoo. My issue is 100 Thieves. I just can't say it correctly.
100 Thieves, yeah.
100
Yahoo.
Maybe
Yeah,
100
Yahoo.
Thieves would be sponsored by Yahoo, and that would just be a terrible thing.
No,
Because
okay.
a lot.
Stage 1 was great. Stage 2 has been even
Transition.
greater so far. I'm just going to straight away move on. Stage 1 obviously kicked off last Tuesday. For anyone that didn't get to check it out or whatever, I want to first of all talk about the new formatting, get your guys' opinions on it, get your opinion on it as well, Landon. We now have matches across Tuesday to Thursday with kind of a match of the week on the Thursday. What's your kind of opinion of that?
I like it in some ways, but it's just like I'm always that way where I don't like change too much because it kind of messes up my schedule in some ways. I think just generally, I think it's a good idea. I think it's kind of cool to highlight the match of the week. Then you also have the other esports recap show on Thursday. I think it's kind of cool to hype that up. And also, like being a Call of Duty caster, I would imagine that it's kind of, especially for the EU guys, I imagine it's pretty rough to cast 2 days basically straight. I mean, that many matches. And then 2 days, and then you're free for like the next 5 days. I think it's going to kind of spread out things a little bit more. I do understand though in some ways it's like why would you spread it out over 3 days? There are negatives and positives to both. I think overall though, as time does go on, we'll appreciate it being over 3 days. I think from the general audience, it's kind of a better thing. But yeah, less matches. I know this isn't like everyone's favorite thing. I think it's a cool idea, but I'm just not a big fan of it. If they do have a match that is off stream, I think they do end up recording it and then uploading it to their YouTube channel. Great idea and thought because it kind of generates more people to your YouTube channel, kind of brings, thoughts of what happened in that matchup. I personally would like to see all matches streamed. I would have loved to see the DT Luminosity game happen live. I think it was supposed to be C9 versus 100 Thieves that was supposed to be off stream, but it also kind of in some ways helps them with scheduling. If one player can't be there a certain day, they can reschedule that with that game. It provides a lot more, I could say, possibilities. If things do happen, they can also exchange that one out. I think in a way this next season they definitely improve with their scheduling because they now have a lot more freedom. It's not these 2 days all this stuff has to happen or you're forfeited. It's what, we're going to give you a second chance. We also have a match for Thursday that we can segregate to as well. I think overall it's a good idea. I just wish that we could also see that last match live as well because I personally liked it.
Now, looking on Twitter, it looks like regular 2K events on GB are going to be returning for CWL points. What I'm pretty excited for because I don't know about you guys, but that was something that I really loved about the weekend. You always had a 2K and a 5K. Scrap the MLG Pro League. It was pretty awesome. And I believe obviously it was announced about a week or two ago that there's obviously going to be more minor tournaments throughout the week as well for CWL points. So it's nice that we're finally getting a system that enables players outside of the pro division to kind of grind and get, and it doesn't involve 25Ks where they basically have no chance of getting first place because of all the obviously teams that are inside the pro division. So yeah, it's going to be really awesome. I'm kind of, we'll talk about MLG in a bit, actually. No, we'll talk about MLG. I was going to say something, but I'll leave it for when we talk about MLG. So we're going to highlight a couple of matches in regards to what's happened this week. One, obviously, being Rise OG, and funny enough, the other being OG versus Envy, because obviously we were really excited to see the new Envy roster. I didn't get to watch too much of this matchup. It was very close. It went the full distance to Game 5. What was your overall impression of this new Envy roster with John and Apathy? Because straight away, what I think is more slaying power.
So the new MV team is what we're talking about?
Yes.
Like as far as the Call of Duty World League or just in general?
As far as them against OG and just in general, how did they look on their match against OG?
I think like coming into this one, I think like obviously Optic Gaming versus MVS is known as the El Clasico of Call of Duty. Everyone for some reason thinks it's FaZe now. It's like it's not like the two best teams are in the El Clasico. It's the fact that the two most historic teams are facing off against one another in general. I don't know why people are calling it's Optic versus FaZe. No, That's not it. It's Optic versus Envy. Please and thank you. I think TheSTiKSLive actually put out an article about that as well. Either way, though, Optic Gaming versus Envy. This is Envy's first test. I think this is actually Optic's first game because they ended up playing on Thursday, not on Tuesday. That's something to kind of keep in mind. So you're not going to see you're going to have two teams who aren't competing on Tuesday, but will be on Wednesdays and Thursdays and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Optic Gaming's first match versus obviously MVS, who looked pretty good. They ended up playing against Elevate, and I believe 3-0ing them, or at least I'm pretty sure they pretty much dominated them for the most part. But yeah, this was a very close game. This obviously went down all the way to Game 5. Another thing you mentioned was that actually MVS ended up beating Optic in hardpoint, which is very rare. Yeah. Rare to see.
And it wasn't like a very close game. I think it was like 250 to like 180. So it was a fairly comfortable.
I think it was like 25-point victory. I don't think.
Okay, apologies.
No, you're good. I know we heard it. We have a lot of matches that are like in our mind and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the hardpoint was fairly close, and to keep in mind, I think like Optic was 19-3 in hardpoint, and so for their first game to be played against Envious in hardpoint, they end up losing. Granted, Envy's a fantastic team, but they looked very talented. I watched JCap. He posted the VODs, or the VODs on his channel for those who might be a little bit curious. If you guys want to check those out, he ends up posting it from Envy's perspective, not just Optic. I know Optic does upload theirs as well. They look pretty good. And also to keep in mind, John was in the hill, and I was really excited. I was like, how are they going to transition? John was obviously a main slayer, but also somebody to get in the hill. And looking at the scoreboard, he ended up dropping 34 kills, along with 2 minutes and almost 30 seconds of hill time. That's what John provides. That's why, and to me, he is the best support player, at least one of the best support players that we have in the game right now. When it comes
to so naturally talented with like gun skill. I mean, the first thing I thought of when they added Apathy and John, I mean, you are going to be taking one of the best slayers from Liquid, and then obviously John, who had a massive impact on the LG roster. So this is just a win-win because the old Envy roster was clearly not working. I mean, now you've got that experience with JCap and even Slasher, you could argue. And then John and Apathy are just like, this is great. Like, I think this is such a good, I mean, Apathy's clearly driven to succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so well to get on this roster, considering Team Liquid obviously didn't qualify. John as well, a very good opportunity for him. JCap, very experienced. Slash as well. I know there was like a lot of controversy over Slasher because it seemed like Aches and TP were blaming him a bit for what happened. Nor here nor there. This roster with, I think, Apathy and John on it is better than with Aches and TP. Just it was not clicking.
Oh yeah,
Aches and TP. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have so much respect for the guys. They have so much history in Call of Duty in general. But I think the reality is they're just not kind of the go-to players that they used to be. They just haven't been that way. And I don't know if that's just a case of they haven't found the right roster for themselves, or a case of I honestly don't know what it is. It's just a case of. This, I think, is a better suited roster. I think with John and Apathy on, I think they can bring a lot more slaying power and potential to the skill, a lot more talent in general, if I'm honest. Yes, you may get that experience and just wisdom from Aches, but yeah, I think this is what this team needs, and they don't need Aches, and I think this is gonna. I mean, people are arguably saying that Envy is now level with FaZe or maybe ahead. Well, it's a very bold statement considering we're so early on, but I can definitely see where they're coming from considering the reputation that John and Apathy brought up through their kind of presence on these other teams. So although they didn't win, they definitely showed straight at the bat, although making a roster change. We have to remember OG haven't made a roster change. So Envy are kind of in a way kind of expected to lose because obviously there's that kind of adjustment to communication and so on and so forth. But to take them to a Game 5 was very impressive. And
absolutely.
Take that hard point. I mean, we know that like a lot of teams are like, okay, well, let's just assume we're going down 1-0 and take the search. So
yeah, and then OG nearly won the search too. That was something to kind of keep in mind as well. Like it wasn't like OG like loses the hard point and they come back and it's far back in the search and destroy. No, they barely won that. They went to round 11. Granted, they won the uplink as they should. That the most dominant team in a particular game type in all of the Call of Duty World League was OG's uplink game. I can actually check. They went 20-2 in the league, which is absolutely absurd. Then it came down to CTF. Envy nearly ends up winning the CTF 3-2, and then came down to Search and Destroy. Nearly went to round 11. It was on Hunted as well, one of OG's not really preferred Search and Destroy maps. They ended up winning that one 6-4. So OG actually wins their searches. Congratulations. They lose the hard point. they clutch up in the searches. So
what I have noticed, I've been working on a video the last couple of days regarding kind of the new rivalry of OG and Rise, and what I've noticed is Scump has a massive influence in search because he gets the bomb down an insane amount of time. Like literally, it's just one of those things because they're such a naturally gifted player. I don't know if Scump's just because he's such an aggressive player, it means that when he carries the bomb, he has more chance of planting it because he's more likely to push and get to the bomb quicker. But looking at the statistics over since the start of Black Ops 2, basically from league matches and to Tinos and finals of stage 1 and so on and so forth, he gets the bomb down an incredible amount of time. There has to be a massive kind of influence for why OG can be so good in search. So, but back on NV, really good start. Although they lost to OG, they proved that they're definitely here to hang against the top teams. And as you said, they beat eLv 3-0. eLv were a team that go back a month, and we were like, eLv should beat Envy. But obviously, this new roster is showing that they have the capabilities, which leads us into the match of the week, what was, of course, Rise OG, a rematch of Stage 1 finals. Ironically, I don't know if it was fixed, but ironically, it was obviously the first match.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure
it was as well. I think so. But Rise ended up taking it. I think the second time in Black Ops. I mean, OG and Rise, I think, have faced each other 5 times, I think now, if I remember correctly. And
why said the Call of Duty World League OG 3-0 them? So I tweeted this on Twitter. I was pretty happy with this tweet.
Yeah.
It's the first time Rise has beat Optic in the Call of Duty World League, let alone the first time they've taken a map off of them in the CWL. Well, league. It's not. I mean, obviously they faced off at different times, but just in general, though, that's pretty big for them.
But how did the match actually play out? Because as the time zones go, I didn't get to watch too much of this.
How Hardpoint pretty easily. I think a main case for that was Looney. I think he went like 13. No, he went like 13 and 25 or 13 and 26. He didn't play very well at all, which is not like one player to point out, but in some ways, like you can kind of see like maybe they were targeting him. Maybe he just had a bad game. That's the reason why they ended up losing pretty badly. But in most cases, regardless of the Optic versus Envy matchup, you expect OG to basically cream Rise when it comes down to Hardpoint, just in general because of how well they play. The Search and Destroy, another round 11 for Optic. Rise ended up taking that one out on Fringe, which actually is a pretty good map for OG when it comes down to Search and Destroy. Rise Nation has also been in some ways lacking in their search game. Normally they are pretty talented teams when it comes in a hardpoint uplink, so it was kind of interesting to see how they played. And in season 1, their hardpoint record was 14-8. Their uplink was 17-5. Their search and destroys were 15-14. So they played a lot of searches, but narrowly edged out a positive record over that. The uplink was 8-6 in favor of Rise Nation. So Optic in week 1 has lost a hardpoint and an uplink, in which they lost combined like 5 of them overall.
I could count on one finger how many from season 1. It was or stage 1 even. Yeah.
3? Yeah, 5. They lost 5 overall maps between hardpoint or 5 game types maps in stage 1 between hardpoint and uplink, and they've already lost 2 of them in the first week. Granted, it is Rise. Granted, it is Envy. These are talented teams, but in some ways, and I guess I'm kind of downing Optic. I'm acting like they first like TSM and they versus like 100 Thieves. God,
nearly got it.
They are playing in some ways the most talented teams right behind them. I mean, Envy, this is early for them. I think you can kind of put. I'm really excited to see Envy versus FaZe, so that would kind of go out with one another.
Yeah.
But in some ways, though, this is in some ways alarming for Optic because they don't really have that lenience against them anymore. They are 1-1, and this is the slowest start that we've seen from Optic have in a while. That's most generic thing you could say in the world. It's like a headline tweet.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, OG took the hardpoint as expected, and then it was a very close game 2 search by the looks of things. As well, uplink was kind of surprising, I guess, and then CTF 2-0 on Stronghold, although Stronghold not here there. I'm very excited. I think this is developing definitely into kind of a rivalry. I don't know what you guys think in the chat, but I think this is the new FaZe OG from AW for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about FaZe in another episode, I think, or show even. I think, I don't know what it is about FaZe. I haven't quite kind of pinpointed it in my head, but they're just kind of, they're lacking something that they had last year that just kind of towards the end put them over the top of maybe even OG. So we'll come across that bridge when we have to. But this these two teams are definitely developing, and I'm kind of super excited to see this kind of storyline develop and see them rematch against each other later in the stage, and also stage 2 finals as well. I know it's a long way away, but it will soon come round. What will be very interesting. But that pretty much wraps up North America. Hopefully, goalie put the actual standings on the moment. They're kind of irrelevant at the moment. No, we didn't apparently, but you can go and check them out yourselves at COD Esportspedia, or the just typing, I think, Call of Duty Esports, and the actual official page comes up as well, and all the standings are there. They're kind of irrelevant at the moment after 2 games, so I guess you can kind of understand why we're not showing them. But moving on to Europe real quick, there's one match I want to focus on, and that's it. Just before that, though, we had a bunch of different changes, what I'll quickly recap for anyone that does care about the good old Europe. That is my bread and butter. So we had like musical chairs, I guess you could say, with the teams, which basically involved Supremacy, that were a team that actually tried to qualify a relegation by LDLC's team. Then LDLC bought TCM Gaming's team. So now TCM Gaming are out, and Supremacy have come in, basically. What are two French organizations, that and LDLC. So, and with that as well, we had some roster changes. Supremacy is obviously going to be a French roster. LDLC is going to be a primarily UK-based roster, with Watson joining the roster from Exertus, meant the Vortex, who was dropped from Splice, joined Exertus. And I think that's pretty much it. You can check it all out on COD Esportspedia. It's all illustrated pretty well. But the matchup I want to talk about is Millennium versus Supremacy, where it was pretty much the only upset. It was the only one match that you kind of thought you knew what was going to happen, and it didn't happen, because Supremacy were a team that, yeah, they qualify. They are a new roster and everything, but Millennium is Millennium. They're obviously, even performed pretty well against OG back at Crown Melbourne. So for them to actually lose to this Supremacy roster was a big shock. I think they lost all the respawns, I think, if I remember correctly, what was quite surprising. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it was weird considering you think of players like Mad Cat and Jerd, and even Tommy and Swanee, they go off all the time. It was crazy to think about in terms of this matchup, but I think it's not going to kind of mean too much in the long run of things. I think Millennium will still easily end up finishing near the top. It was just a bit of a surprise matchup in terms of the overall result. And as I say, that was pretty much the only interesting result from the EU CWL this week. Obviously, hopefully something interesting will happen, as well as North America. It all starts, I believe, goalie, what time does it start for you? I think it's like around 12 Central for A and T matches, and then it's like pretty much continuous throughout the 2 days.
For A and Z, it starts at 3 a.m. Central. Which
3 a.m. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to respect goalie. Anyone that doesn't know goalie, he pretty much tweets out all the CWL action throughout the entire 2 days. ANZ, Europe, North America, repeat again, what is pretty crazy. So just GG's. I don't know how you do it. I'm convinced that part of you has turned into a robot, but I'll figure that out when I come and visit you later this year. So
I definitely am.
But other than that, I think that's pretty much wraps. I mean, we don't want to talk about CWL for too much. We kind of realized that throughout stage 1, we talked about it for too much. So I think we'll leave it there and talk about what everyone wants to find out about, what is MLG Anaheim. Landon, how excited are you?
I'm excited, man. This is gonna be.
I thought you were gonna be like speechless, like
I know, right?
You couldn't speak.
I mean, this is what I labeled, at least in my opinion, the grandfather of Call of Duty events. Like MLG Anaheim is the peak of Call of Duty events. I mean, you could throw in COD Champs, I understand that, but just in general, like regular open events, major tournament, MLG Anaheim is the exact definition of what that is. Whether it's back at Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, goes to wherever you want to label it as. This is the biggest tournament outside of COD Champs that we have every year, with the most hype fans, with the most hype and most usually the biggest plays. I think some of the best moments of all time have happened to MLG Anaheim. I mean, I could label off a number of different things that ended up happening. I think Giante is one of the main guys at MLG. Kind of helps with social media. Was tweeting out, what are your guys' favorite moments from MLG? And I was kind of thinking in my mind, I was like, there are so many great moments. Like, whatever you want to label them from, like, the Complexity versus Impact CTF. That game, like, was I think the best game of all time, best series of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whose Complexity, I think, is what goalie ended up tweeting at him. Like, and Parasite ended up tweeting that when they had the interview with one another pregame. The Optic van they ended up having. Like, there are just so many like memories that can come back to mind.
That was Full Sail.
That was Full Sail. Never mind.
It was an MLG event. It was an
Sorry.
MLG event.
There's
Yeah.
so many moments though.
Right.
I was just thinking of all.
If you're new to COD Esports, if you've come in towards the end of AW, Black Ops 3, we highly recommend go back and watch some of the VODs from MLG Anaheim 2013, I believe it was Black Ops 3, and 2014, that was Ghost. Some of the best action and memories that have just happened today. MLG Anaheim has had such a big partnership in creating Call of Duty Esports memories, and it for the longest of times was just like everyone was always amped for it every year. It was always like seen as the national championship, and yeah, just go back and watch it. To give you a bit more details, they're going back to the old format that we are so happy about, or at least I am. I don't know about you guys. $100,000 on the line.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, just, $100K, why not? The format is, for anyone that didn't know, I should have announced, is going to be an open bracket for anyone outside the Pro Division. 4 top teams from that will go into pool play with the 12 teams from the Pro Division. Obviously, then top 2 from the Pro Division pool play go into, I believe, a double elim championship bracket, and we will have so much great action. I'm so excited that Activision have, in a way, listened, if you will, and diverted back to our old roots. And I mean, I think, excuse me, I'm dying here. I think for the longest of times, people were like, let's get rid of MLG. But now I think a lot of people are very happy to welcome them back into COD Esports, and I certainly am. I mean, I'm a big kind of fan of what they've done all together. And yeah, it's going to be really awesome. I think this event takes place June, like the start of June, goalie, I think it is. I think it's about 4 weeks' time. Okay, more than that then. About 5 or 6 weeks' time. Okay, goalie apparently didn't say it, but yeah, it's June 10th to the 11th, or the 12th, which is, goalie, just say it on stream for the people.
Okay, it's June 10th through the 12th, people. I didn't want to hit my unmute button. I'm sorry, Thomas. Sheesh.
I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I apologize. That's what it is. Yeah. That date that person said. But it's going to be really excited. We want to kind of talk about some other events as well. ESWC is coming up in 2 weekends. What is obviously an international event, if you want to call it. There's a lot of European teams as well as teams such as OG, FaZe, and I believe Riser as well. What's going to be really, really awesome. Happening again at the Zenith Arena. Again, that's another event and VODs that I just recommend you go back and watch. Landon, how impressed were you with the French fans at that event last year?
I mean, what? There was like the next 3 or 4 months, that's what everyone was talking about. Was can we,
everyone was like, let's have
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people were asking, can we have Call of Duty championships in Paris? Like, can we have it and for the French fans, stuff for them just to cheer? And granted, I wish that the fans in general from ESWC would like root me on throughout the day. Like, that'd be absolutely fantastic. No, I think honestly, I'm really excited for ESWC. Of course, it's in the back of everyone's minds. There are some really great events that are coming up soon. I mean, you keep in mind, like, ESWC is right around the corner. Of course, like, there are Call of Duty World League events that could be coming as well. But we also have MLG Anaheim in the back of our mind. This is going to be a good 2-3 months. I guess there are 4 events that are going to be happening. Some of the best events, I guess, in Call of Duty history, like in past history, that are going to be coming up. So I'm really excited for it, though. Yeah, ESWC is going to be awesome. Hopefully we don't have that random. I think for ESWC last year we had like some random stream. Was it on Twitch at all, or like I forget how it ended up going, or maybe that was a different event. I don't really remember. Motion, yeah, I hope it's on Twitch. Don't be on different websites.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I mean, it's now under a CWL Challenge Division event, so I presume it will at least be on YouTube, and I presume they'll stream it on the Call of Duty Twitch channel. It makes sense at least, but or at least they'll host it like they did with UMG. But besides that as well, Gfinity in Europe have been tweeting out about a lot of stuff as well. They basically unofficially announced Martin Wyatt, that is, who is quite high up in Gfinity, and unofficially announced that they will be returning to Call of Duty. No, obviously, announcement of an event, but you can guarantee, I think, within the next month or so that they will announce something. I'm very positive that something's going to happen. Not saying that I have any intel, because I don't, but I'm pretty, like, if I had to bet it, I would, like, I'm 90% sure that there's going to be something from Gfinity coming out what's really, really good. Hopefully another international event, because I think a lot of people enjoyed the Gfinity events last year. I mean, the 100K Summer Championship, the OG, they went up like 3-0 and choked and lost 4-3 or something ridiculous like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming back to Call of Duty in the form of Gfinity and MLG, and we still don't know what UMG's next plans are. They'll probably have something during stage 2 as well. So I think Activision have in a way listened in terms of bringing more events, and potentially the formatting is going back to what it used to be was a really good thing as well, because I know that we were pretty much happy with it. I know there was some people that didn't like pool play and double elim, but generally speaking, I think everyone's happy to go back to this rather than it being a single elim, as my camera just weirdly faded out there. But I think, Landon, you want to talk about EGLX, what you're actually at this weekend, what's actually an event, give it a bit of promotion.
Yeah, obviously this isn't on the same level of like MLG Anaheim or ESWC, of course, but I will be casting what is known as EGLX in some ways, or not in some ways. That's what it's called. It's also like Enthusiast Gaming is running it. There are some really good teams who are going to be there. Not really like anything really to write home about. There are some pros, I believe some NA pros who are kind of scrapping together teams. I know there are some really good Canadian players, like Gunjar is going to be there, Royalty is going to be there. So some pretty good teams. As well as the how Black Ops 3 has gone, lands are few and far between. There's a pretty good prize pool, a guaranteed $10,000 prize pool. I think that team passes and server basically kind of sold out. They actually had a lot of teams sign up, which is absolutely fantastic. It's really, really awesome. But they're going to have a number of different games. Smash is going to be there. Halo's going to be there. I think they're having some smaller, but like CSGO and League of Legends and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of stuff. It's going to be awesome. Like, it's kind of like a massive convention that's going to be going on. Not like PAX at all, but it's like a very small, minute packs with a bunch of like gaming tournaments going on. So it'll be a really good time. If you guys are in the area, in Toronto, in Canada in general, try to come down. Be awesome. It'll be a fun time. And so it's going to be as big as regular events will be, but it's still going to be a really fun time. It's going to be awesome.
There's going to be yourself, Paradox, Jen or Lemon Kiwi is going to be there. And who was the last person? I remember you told me before pre-show. I can't remember who the last caster was.
Did you say Paradox?
Paradox, Jen,
and Doug. Doug is I know he's written some articles for ESPN Esports, and he's also kind of involved with the Halo scene. So
he's actually a contributor on Halo Esportspedia also.
Halo Esportspedia. There you go. Awesome.
Yeah, so it's as you said, not on the same level as the CWL, but it's nice to support kind of it more on a regional basis. And you can kind of take inspiration. And I know we've been talking a lot recently about, if you want to get into COD esports, it's opportunities like this that you obviously have to take hold of, and maybe it leads to something. So in saying that as well, I know that COD Esportspedia, I think, are looking for new applicants to work. I'm just going to shout out because I know that it really helped Golly out, and I think it's only fair that we shout out. So if you would like to get involved more in COD Esports, if you're sitting in the chat and be like, man, I wish I could, be more involved and have, something that I could hold to my name in terms of COD Esports or esports in general, then COD Esportspedia might be the opening for you. It's a fun job, Golly. Yeah.
It's fun when you don't do it for 72 straight hours like I do.
Yeah.
Which I would never expect that from anyone except myself.
It's kind of a give and take. Like, it really helped Golly out because it would probably mean that he could fixate more of his time on things that are kind of tedious, and at the same time it's experience for you that you can go on to maybe this new gamers organization that is obviously got ESPN and Esports Guru, and maybe get a paid job writing articles for esports would be a dream for a lot of people. So but with that being all said, I think that's going to do it for this episode. A bit of a more shorter one for this show. I think we've covered pretty much everything though. We'll try to get someone on next week. Things and plans fell through this week, so we do apologize about that. But I think we've had a pretty successful show nevertheless. And obviously, Landon, have fun at EGLX.
Thank you, sir.
I think with you going to EGLX, there is a slight possibility of our showtime may change, because obviously I know you're flying back on the Monday. So just bear that in mind if you are a regular viewer of the Sticks. But that being said, I'm going to let you do your outro as always.
Guys, it's been your dude, your bro, your pal, your man, your ally, internet guys. It's been Landon. Thank you guys so much. There we go. For tuning in today or this week. I really appreciate it. If you guys ever are curious, if you guys are on YouTube, on Twitch or on iTunes, feel free, to obviously hit me up on Twitter at LandoCod, or maybe even on YouTube as well, to search that as well and you'll be able to find me. Really appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving the Sticks as of lately. It's been absolutely awesome. Major shout out to the Sticks fam. You guys are fantastic. I feel like I was going to say something that I forgot. Oh, it's also, but next time I see you guys, unless you watch YouTube videos, the next time I see you guys in the Sticks chat, I will be a year older because I'm going to turn 20 while I'm in Canada for EGLX. Like, the EGLX is obviously on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
What day's your birthday?
That Monday that I'm coming home, May 2nd, Which
really?
show on is actually my birthday. So there you go.
Oh, that's gonna be a good show then.
Young Landon is turning 20. He's reaching the 20.
Oh, you're into the 20s with me and Goalie. God, what is happening? Goalie's like an old man to me though, even though he's only a year older. It's kind of funny, but. Well, happy birthday for next week. We'll have to kind of. I'll think of something in the week for us to do as kind of a surprise.
Hey. Nice.
But no, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. I know this has been a slightly different show. We've really been trying to grind over the last few weeks, and really do appreciate the continued support. And obviously, the giveaway went really well, we think, and we're just obviously continuing to improve. Any constructive criticism, always just hit us up on Twitter, in the YouTube comments, whatever it is. We're more than open. We're not naive enough to know that the show can't be improved upon, and so on and so forth. And obviously, as always, thank you to our sponsors, G Fuel and Scuff. Obviously, use code STIKS for respective discounts. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, one thing I want to end it on is by saying something that I know we talked about in DMs. I'll do it now because it's better than tweeting out from the sticks. If you guys have always had someone that you would like to see on the sticks that has not been on, or even someone in the past, let us know, because we see everything and we do take things into consideration when we obviously are planning shows. So if there's someone that you would like to see and they're approachable, obviously don't go out and say Nate Shop, because it's probably not going to happen 99.99999%. But if there's someone that we think we can get on and we think it could work with the show and what we're planning, we will definitely consider it. So let us know down below. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week, hopefully a similar time, and good night.